The sun was just beginning to set over the busy downtown district, painting the skyline with streaks of gold and crimson. Inside Le Chateau, one of the city's most prestigious restaurants, the atmosphere was buzzing with wealthy diners, clinking glasses, and soft classical music floating through the air. The waiters moved briskly, their uniforms crisp, their voices polite. To anyone walking in, the place seemed flawless. But perfection, as often is the case, was only on the surface. That evening, a man named Daniel entered the restaurant. He was in his early 40s, dressed neatly though not extravagantly, and he moved slowly with the help of a crutch. His left leg had been severely injured years before in a construction accident, leaving him with a permanent limp. Despite the challenges, Daniel carried himself with quiet dignity. Eating at such a high-end place was rare for him, but it was his late wife's birthday, and he had decided to honor her memory with a special dinner. As Daniel settled into his chair, one of the waiters, Jason, approached. Jason was young, good-looking, and ambitious, but behind his polite smile lurked arrogance. He believed working in such a fine establishment put him above most customers, especially those who didn't fit the wealthy, glamorous image. When Jason saw Daniel struggling to adjust his seat with a crutch, he smirked. "Need a children's chair, sir?" he asked in a low tone. His lips curled mockingly. A couple of diners at the next table glanced over, shocked by the remark. Daniel's face flushed, but he tried to ignore it. "Just some water for now, thank you," he said calmly. Jason leaned in and whispered cruelly, "You sure you can even handle being here? This place is for fine dining, not charity cases." Then, with a chuckle, he walked away. Several diners shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Daniel stared at the tablecloth, his chest tight with embarrassment. He wondered if he should simply leave, but then reminded himself why he came. His wife, Emily, had always told him to hold his head high, no matter what people thought. As Jason continued serving other tables, his behavior didn't improve. When Daniel asked about a menu item, Jason exaggerated his sigh and muttered, "Maybe something simple would be better for you." Each remark chipped away at Daniel's composure. Finally, when Jason brought the wrong dish and Daniel politely mentioned it, Jason replied loudly enough for others to hear, "Guess you can't read the menu properly either. Should I feed you too?" Laughter erupted from a few diners who thought it was a joke. Daniel's hands trembled as he gripped his crutch. His dignity, already fragile, was crumbling in front of strangers. But what Jason didn't realize was that the disabled customer he mocked was not just any patron. Daniel was, in fact, the owner of Le Chateau. He had deliberately kept his identity hidden that evening, wearing modest clothes and booking the table under a different name. For months, he had heard whispers about certain staff members treating less glamorous guests poorly, but he needed proof. Tonight, unfortunately, he had found it. Daniel took a deep breath and stood up, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "I would like to see the owner," he said. Jason rolled his eyes. "Oh, trust me, sir, the owner doesn't deal with situations like this. You'll just embarrass yourself more." The room grew tense. Diners exchanged glances, sensing something dramatic was about to unfold. Then Daniel straightened his back, placed his crutch firmly, and announced clearly, "There's no need to call him. The owner is already here." The restaurant fell silent. Jason froze, confusion flashing across his face. What do you mean?" Daniel's eyes locked on his. "I am Daniel Hayes. I own this restaurant, and I've been watching everything you've said tonight." Gasps echoed through the dining room. Some diners clapped softly in approval, others leaned forward, eager to see what would happen next. Jason's face turned pale, his arrogance evaporating in an instant. Daniel continued, his voice filled with both authority and disappointment. "You mocked me for my disability. You belittled me in front of other guests. But more than that, you revealed what kind of man you truly are, one who measures people's worth not by their humanity, but by how perfect they appear. That is not the standard of Le Chateau." Jason stammered, I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." Daniel cut him off. "Your words weren't accidents. They were choices, cruel choices, and they will have consequences." He turned to the other diners, his gaze sweeping the room. This restaurant was built not just for the wealthy or the glamorous. It was built as a place where anyone, no matter who they are, can experience dignity and respect. My late wife believed in kindness above all, and it is her values I honor here. I will not allow them to be trampled. The room erupted in applause. Some stood in respect, moved by his words. Daniel raised a hand for silence, then faced Jason once more. "Take off your apron. You will not be working here anymore." Jason's eyes widened. "Please, Mr. Hayes, I need this job." Daniel's voice softened but stayed firm. "What you need is to learn compassion. Until then, you will not represent this place." Reluctantly, Jason untied his apron. His head hung low, and left the hall under the heavy weight of silence. Once he was gone, Daniel took his seat again. The staff hurried to serve him with genuine respect, but Daniel smiled gently and waved them off. "I don't need special treatment, just honesty." That night, Daniel ate his meal quietly, toasting to Emily's memory with a glass of red wine. But before leaving, he addressed the diners once more. "Remember," he said, his voice carrying through the hall, "kindness costs nothing, but cruelty can cost you everything. May this place always be known not just for its food, but for its humanity." The applause that followed was louder than before, filled with admiration. Some guests approached him to shake his hand. Others offered words of gratitude for standing up against injustice. News of the incident spread quickly in the days that followed. Articles praised Daniel for his humility and courage, and Le Chateau became even more respected, not just for its cuisine, but for its values. Applications from people wanting to work there poured in, many saying they wanted to be part of a place that valued dignity above wealth. As for Jason, he struggled for a while, but the humiliation that once burned him slowly became his teacher. He found work at a small cafe, where the clientele was far humbler. At first, he resisted, but over time, he learned what Daniel had tried to teach him. Every customer is human. Every person deserves respect. Months later, Jason returned to Le Chateau, not as an employee, but as a diner. Nervously, he asked to see Daniel. When they met, Jason bowed his head. "I wanted to say thank you. You were right. I had to lose everything to realize what I'd been blind to." Daniel studied him for a long moment, then offered a small smile. "Growth begins with acknowledgement. I hope you continue on that path." For Daniel, the lesson was clear. True strength wasn't in wealth, power, or even perfect health. It was in humility, kindness, and the courage to stand against cruelty, even when cloaked in fine uniforms and polite smiles. And so, the man once mocked for his limp walked out of his own restaurant with his head high, leaving behind a legacy stronger than gold, a reminder that dignity belongs to everyone,